Man, I'm really looking forward to today's practice. So today's my next technical day, and I'm going to be diving into a couple of new, well, not really new, but some exercises that I like to do on technical days, all right? And I'll be diving into those here, most of what we're going to be covering today's episode. But this is one of the reasons why I got the big deep dish plates. So back in the day before there was such thing as bumper plates, like the weightlifting teams and even bodybuilders used to use these deep dish plates because back in the day, these deep dish plates, like if they were weightlifting and they were dropping the plates on the ground, right? And if they were the thin plates, like we, are very common today, it can crack the floor. So they would use these deeper dish plates to kind of dissipate a lot of that energy coming down. So anyway, that was one of the big, other than these plates just looking badass, it was one of the reasons why I got the deep dish plates. But anyway, diving into the Zurcher Squat and the Zercher Deadlift today. And I remember seeing Pavel do this in a book. He was doing some tests with Stewart Mcgill, who's the leading spine biomechanicist. And I remember seeing him do this with like 315 pounds, or like it was like 315, or it was like 405. It blew my mind when I saw him Zurcher deadlifting what looks like 315, probably, maybe more. Anyway, Stewart Mcgill, leading spine biomechanist in the world, as he was testing Pavel, like they were doing a lot of ab-based stuff, testing. And to quote Stewart Mcgill, well, kind of paraphrase, he said that Pavel had the strongest abs that he'd ever tested. And so I was like, dude, I need to incorporate this into my practice somewhere, somehow. Now, a couple of things to keep in mind, right? You can see I'm getting down there pretty low, so you definitely want to make sure you've got some good hip mobility, right, to get in there. And so just something to keep in mind, all right? And so the Zurcher Squat, just like brief little history on it, it's named after Ed Zercher, right? He was a strongman and powerlifter, I believe, in the 1930s. And just used to train with all kinds of unconventional type training, right? I mean, if you're going to be a strong man, right? And so he would use this exercise to, for one, help build his carry. So if you're carrying stones and all that kind of stuff, like this comes in really handy, right? So you just like a stone, you got to pick it up off the ground, right? Well, if you don't have stones, this is a good alternative, okay? And so to quote Louis Simmons, he said, the Zurcher Squat, it teaches you how to squat. Right, it teaches you to push your knees apart, pick your chest up, push your butt back. It teaches everything, right? But what I love about the Zurcher Squat is I think it's really good for beginners. Okay, it, again, to quote Louis, like it teaches you how to squat, right? And if you look at the pattern of the Zurcher Squat, it's a goblet squat, essentially. It's a goblet squat with a barbell, right? And I believe Pavel said that the goblet squat is the squat for the people, right? It will teach you how to squat. So great exercise. So I'm coming off my first cycle. I'm coming into the midpoint of my next cycle, right? My next 7 days, right? So everything was days 12, 13, 14, right? I had volume, I had 140 lifts scheduled for these 7 days. And now we're on the technical day, splitting up, giving me a little bit of a rest before I dive back into the next 3 days of volume, which I think I'm going to have like 84 lifts scheduled over 3 days, which is quite a bit, right? But again, I'm spreading out that frequency, so I actually feel really good compared to the first way that I started this program. Not even a program. Just this experiment, I guess. And so the first time I crashed and burned, and I got sick and overtrained. Like I really felt what overtraining was like for the first time ever. And so even though I'm doing less, it seems like more volume, it's just more spread out. Right, versus doing it more time-based. I'm like, you know what, here's the lifts I'm going to do, and then I'm going to do those lifts, right? But Zurcher Squat, Zurcher Deadlift, great for teaching you how to squat, right? It's a hip-dominant action, right? And in my case, Jiu-Jitsu and everything comes in pretty handy, right? it requires you to have that upright posture. So I mentioned in a previous episode, I believe it was, that the two principles that Jiu-Jitsu is founded on is posture and positioning. So before I deadlift that barbell, I've got to get in a pretty solid position, and you see how I break the ground, right? And so it's teaching you the wedge. It's teaching you how to wedge, right? And I talk about this wedge a lot in several videos, right? I talk about it a lot in several videos, which I'll link a couple of them here at the top corner so you can check those out. But the wedge is so important because it gives you the most leverage over the weight, right? So the stronger you are in your posture, the better position you're going to have. The better position that you have, the more leverage you're going to have over the weight, right? Same thing goes with Jiu-Jitsu, right? If I'm doing the Zurcher Squat or the Zercher deadlift and I allow the barbell to get far away from me, I lose leverage and more of the load shifts to my back, right? I don't want that, okay? So it teaches posture and positioning. Got to keep an upright posture, right? And what I like about it too is it's a built-in safety mechanism, right? Keeping like if you're a beginner and you're getting into barbell lifting, right? I don't recommend you start with back squat. Okay, learn how to goblet squat first, and then as you work your way to the barbell, try the Zurcher squat first. Okay? It's a built-in safety mechanism because it keeps a beginner, right, or even really anybody, it keeps a beginner from squatting more than you can physically carry, right? And a carry is one of our essential movement patterns. Right? We got to be able to carry things every single day. Every single day for the rest of our lives, we're going to be carrying things, right? And so the Zurcher is kind of teaching and reinforcing this, right? Another really good thing that I like about this is actually one of these cycles I take our students through in our fitness academy online, and even at Hardstyle here in person, is it compresses your abs more than your back, than your spine, right? When you've got the barbell on your back, even when you're deadlifting, right? There's a lot more shearing and compressing forces on your back, right? With the Zurcher squat, not so much. A lot of that load shifts anteriorly, shifts to the front, so it really beats up your abs, and it conditions your arms. By the way, with that said, I'm doing it like bare, no sleeves, but you can use like sock sleeves or put a towel around the bar. It's going to take some time conditioning your arms. Kind of like the first time you rack a kettlebell, right? The first time you racked a kettlebell, I'll never forget when the first time I racked a kettlebell, it's like, oh shoot, like, is that supposed to hurt like that? Like, am I doing it in the right? And then it makes you want to kind of bend your wrist to alleviate some of that pain. But there is like a conditioning factor to it, right? So it does take some practice getting used to that, okay? But it compresses your abs more than it does your back, right? And it keeps, if you're keeping the barbell closer to your center of mass, right? Which again is posture and positioning, right? If I maintain my posture and I keep that barbell close to my center of mass, I'm going to have more leverage over the weight, okay? But it's a great substitute, especially for the deadlift, right? If you're on like if you're deloading, if you're on a deload week, or if you're transitioning into a new training cycle and you're going to take a few weeks off before you start the new cycle, like, it's a great exercise, okay? And it allows your back to recover because, again, more of the load is in your midsection, okay, in your abs, right? Which is why I'm doing it for my technical days, right? I just came off the first 3 days of the cycle. I got 140 lifts scheduled, which if I pull up my fancy calculator here, like, I did 40% of that volume for the first 3 days, which is 56 lifts, right? 56 lifts over 3 days, that is a significant amount of volume, right? And so for the next 3 days to close out this cycle, I've got 84 lifts, which I'm really actually looking forward to. I feel really good. Like, I feel really good since I transitioned to this variability approach. The first time I went through it, remember, I got sick. I pretty much experienced overtraining for the first time ever, and I did like 172 lifts in like a week, which is insane, right? And got crazy sick for like 2 days. Had the chills, had the sweats. But eventually, I overcame that, and I was back on the platform. So, but anyway, I had 140 lifts this week. 56 I just did for the first 3 days. Now I've got my technical day, giving my back some time to recover, giving my hips some time to recover, and I'm going to be diving into 84 lifts tomorrow. All right? And the great thing here is, you're going to hear me say that over and over, like the great thing, because there's so many great things, right? But here's another great thing here is it still builds the deadlift, right? I'm still deadlifting and picking the weight up off the floor, right? So it still builds the deadlift. I'm getting ready to, I haven't tried Zurcher deadlifting a load this heavy. It's been, it's been over 3 years for sure. Probably closer to 5 years since I've done Zurcher deadlift, Zurcher squat intentionally. But Zurcher deadlift, the last time I attempted a load like this, it was 120 kilos, which is like 264. So this is going to be my first time racking up, 100 kilos, which is pretty much, I always say 100 kilos, but technically it's like 102 kilos or whatever. But I just like kilos, flat numbers. This is essentially 225, and we'll see how it goes. But gives my back some time to recover, right? Again, which is why I'm doing it on technical days. So it's going to continue to build my deadlift, right? It's going to continue to build my hips, and it's going to continue to build my back, right? So especially if you pull sumo. And actually, I'm actually squatting with a little bit more of a narrow stance. But if you want, you can go with a little bit wider stance and just really focus on sitting your hips back. That's really going to beat up your abs, but then also continues to build the sumo deadlift, which is another reason, I'm just a fan of the Zercher, right? Just another reason why I'm a fan of the Zercher. I mean, here comes up. So you notice I'm chalking my arms because my arms started getting crazy sweaty. My arms started getting really sweaty, and the bar was wanting to roll out of my hands. It kind of started out like that, honestly, and then by like the second or third set, I was like, I just need to start chalking like the pit of my elbows. So here we got pretty much 100 kilos, 102. If I'm being specific, 102 kilos, which is 225. So let's see how it turns out. So again, you want to make sure you have fairly decent like hip mobility that you can pretty much do like a deep squat. And as you pull your arms in, you just want to make sure once you get your arms set, you want to clasp your hands together, create some tension in your fists, in your hands, and then big posture. Hold that posture, maintain that breath, and let it rip. And so, bit of a grinder, but I got it done. So, the title of today's video is Sport-Specific Training, and I want to kind of touch on that. Man, there's no such thing as sport-specific training, okay? I've seen so many ridiculous things people do with barbells because it's, quote, here come the air quotes, sport-specific. There's no such thing as sport-specific training, okay? I've seen some unbelievable stuff people do with barbells, especially like in the Jiu-Jitsu community. Like, I've just seen some insane stuff. People doing shrimps and stuff with kettlebells. It's like, no, you don't need to bastardize the training tool, right? Just, if you want to get better at your sport, just train the sport. That is, come the air quotes, sport-specific training. You want to get better at Jiu-Jitsu, got to train Jiu-Jitsu, right? Now, off the mat, off the field, off the court, right? Just focus on getting stronger. That in and of itself is going to carry over to your sport. Okay? And so this has a ton of carryover to other sports. I mean, specifically for me, like for Jiu-Jitsu, right? I'm in a really hunched over position. I'm kind of like, in a sense, like almost at a disadvantageous position, and I've really got to posture up. So it's going to teach me how to posture when I'm sitting in someone's guard. So if I can build to a point to where I can hold posture in that Zurcher deadlift, if I can hold posture with, I've seen people work up to 405 with a Zurcher squat, right? But if I can hold posture with 225, maybe even like, I think I would really like to see myself build this up to like a 315. If I can hold posture with 315, it's going to be very tough for someone to break my posture down when I'm in their guard, right? So just by getting stronger in that posture, I'm going to have a better position in someone's guard, which means I'm going to have a better chance of escaping or passing or escaping or sweeping or escaping from being submitted, right? Or passing. I'm just going to have more leverage, okay? And so don't focus on this quote-unquote sport-specific training. There's no such thing, right? Don't bastardize the tools that you're using. Just focus on the sport itself and then focus on getting stronger or faster off the court, off the mat, etc. All right? But the biggest sport you'll ever play, friend, is the game of life, right? And so the Zurcher Squat and the Zercher Deadlift is a major, major carry, right? And so I was unloading some new kettlebells. You can see here, I just got some new toys, and they were just sitting on my porch, and I had to get down into a Zurcher deadlift position because there was a 52 and 56 kilo bell. I had to get all the way down in pretty much a Zurcher deadlift posture up, and then stand up, right? So every single day you're going to have to pick up stuff off the ground like that, okay? So the greatest sport that you'll ever play will be the game of life, right? So this is going to improve overall performance in everyday activities, especially if you're like a first responder, right? If you're a firefighter, a laborer, if you're in law enforcement, right? If you're a parent with small kids, if you're a grandparent with grandkids, like, you're going to want to be able to pick them up without throwing your back out. You're going to want to be able to wrestle with your kids and pick them up and throw them over your shoulder without throwing your back out, right? So just so many great benefits of the Zurcher deadlift, Zurcher squat. But like anything else, you got to start somewhere, right? So I recommend starting with like the goblet squat, right? Learning how to carry the goblet squat. Build those abs little by little, right? Start with the Zurcher squat with just the barbell, and then eventually start adding load. And for one, you'll see how much more resilient your arms become, how much stronger your abs become, which is going to make your back stronger, okay? And how much stronger your hips are going to become. And then, of course, you're going to see that carry over into your deadlift, especially if you're a sumo puller like I am, okay? So that's pretty much it, man. Just wanted to share that with you. This is my sports... Not my sports-specific training, because I don't do sports-specific training. This is my technical day for this cycle. And if you got any questions, man, if you're liking these episodes, let me know. Also, by the way, if you're on the gram, I just started a new Instagram account. Be sure to look me up at @StrongestHeck_. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Peace.